All right, welcome everyone. Before we get started, I just want to take a minute and talk about we had a bit of a tragedy on the player profiler team. Randy Young, Memphis, as many of you might know him, passed away this weekend, and I just wanted to take a minute and mention him, talk about him. He was a good friend of mine. I knew him way before the player profiler days. He was actually he was the original host of Goat District with JD back when it was a Dynasty show. And when I came on, he really helped me get into the podcasting space, helped me kind of find my forum and everything. And just a great friend of mine. Tough thing to deal with, and it really kind of sucks that I never got to meet him in person. Because we talked a lot backstage. I mean, he was one of the guys who was a real one, never afraid to say what he thought. And I hate to put his life in terms of fantasy football, because this was just a small part of who he was. But man, he was good at Dynasty, and he was just absolutely fantastic at podcasting. I mean, I highly encourage you, even if you're not into Dynasty, just go listen to a Dynasty Warzone episode just to hear the man talk, because he was absolutely fantastic behind the microphone, far better than I'll ever be. And just wanted to say that, it's been a tough day, tough weekend. We miss him, but nobody misses him as much as his family. I see Jerry, his longtime co-host, in the chat as well. It's just it's hard to believe, and I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with this, but it's just so hard to believe, because he was in such great shape. I mean, if you picked 100 people out of our audience, he would be the last person I would have expected to die suddenly, because he was just in that good a shape. I mean, that's not a rip on our audience. It's a compliment to, just how fanatic he was about his health and everything else. So, again, just keep in mind, this is a fun game that we play, but make sure your priorities are in order. I know Randy's were, and we miss him. And so that's what I got to say about
said,
that.
Dan.
So,
yeah, well said, Dan, and condolences for your loss and his family's loss. But you said that very eloquently.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, tough one to get out, but we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about some more fun stuff. We'll talk about all of the major contests. It was a great season. Several people won life-changing money in the FFPC, the NFFC, and many other contests. We'll talk about them. We'll look forward to 2026. We'll talk about our teams and what we did in 2025. Lots to cover. So let's get into it. And Chris, let's rip the Band-Aid off right now.
Yeah,
it's you had. I mean, hey, any sweat you can get is a fun sweat. I definitely believe that. It sucks to come in second, though. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the Silver Bullet and what you had going on there?
Yeah, Dan, just getting freshly over it from last night. It was a sweat. Going into the weekend, I thought I had a really good chance. and came up a little bit short last night, but it wasn't thanks to Bijan Robinson on this team. Man, he gave it everything he had. Unbelievable performance. Um, Kyle Pitts was also on the team. He came up short. I think I lost by about 6.5 points. I needed overtime. It was an amazing finish in terms of just, Stafford missing Mumford in the corner route. Would have sent that to overtime. Puka, I thought he came down with that catch, could have got to overtime. With all that being said, nobody really cares about that. Came up short, but I came up short to an unbelievable player. I came up short to a really good friend and someone that was long overdue for an overall, one of the top players in this industry, Mike Edelman. So shout out to Uno, Mike Edelman. He takes down the silver bullet, well deserved. We actually spoke about his team last week on this show. I said that his team was the most loaded lineup going into the bullet, and I think he was like maybe fifth or sixth overall. But that's his team up there right now. Funny enough, guys, if you see, he had Drake May on this team, and he went with Dak Prescott, and I couldn't fault that. I loved Dak going into this week. Drake May was on his bench with the 45 points. He had the dream backfield of Christian McCaffrey and Chase Brown, who gave 29 points each in championship week. We both had Pickens, and we both had Jackson Smith and Jigba. So that was a wash for the two of us. The differences where he made it up was Chris Olave, who was phenomenal in the fantasy playoffs. Just a huge, a huge 3-week run from Olave. And then his shrewd move that paid off was he had Brenton Strange and Colston Loveland at tight end. He told me last night after we spoke that he switched it late to Loveland. And that was and that's what wins on overall. You got to make a move like that. Colston Loveland, we both ironically loved him all year long, added him so many times in leagues, but Loveland drops 21 fantasy points versus the Niners in that dream game. And he pulls it off. He also had some pieces like, if you look at his bench, he had Mike Evans in this week, but he also had Garrett Wilson, who he never got anything out of for the playoff run. And he had Roma Dunze, who he never got anything out. So the team was fully loaded. He was well deserving of this win. Like I said, shout out to him. He deserves it all. And
yeah,
guys.
I went ahead and threw up your team as well because I thought you had a fantastic squad and it came so close.
Yeah, listen, he, like I said, he made the move he sat Drake May in the final week. My mistake was the second week of the fantasy playoffs. I have Jalen Hurts on this team. I picked up Brock Purdy midway through the season when somebody dropped him, and I was going to just roll with Brock Purdy. If you remember on this show, like a month ago, I told you I was turning this team over to Brock Purdy, and I went against my word. And in this first week of the fantasy playoffs, Brock Purdy gave 36 points. Jalen Hurts gave 30. I had Purdy in. In week 2 versus Washington, I went back to Hurts. I thought he was in a great spot there. I thought that the 49ers Colts game on Monday night was going to be played too slow after watching how the Colts played the week before. I thought Rivers and the Colts were going to drain the clock so much that I needed a back and forth game. And I was wrong. And it cost me this overall. And that hurts, and I got to deal with it. But a lot of people came up small, and on this team also was DK Metcalf for me. And DK Metcalf could have helped me this final championship week instead of Jaylen Warren being in there. But Jaylen Warren had 30 points the second week of the playoffs to get me in this position, I guess. So Kyle Pitts came up small in the third week of the playoffs, but first week of the playoffs, 45 points. That was the reason why I was there. So we were the only 2 players to score over 700 points in the fantasy shootout. Nobody topped 655. So me and Mike had, we were 50 points clear of the field. He edged me out, and, it was 2 loaded teams and just came up short. So that's that.
All right. Any comments from anyone else? Nelson, I know is proud that you brought Parker Washington all the way up to second place.
I mean, Parker Washington, that's a money player right there, man.
Man, oh man, I tell you, he was obviously what I thought was the weak spot in the lineup in championship week, Nelson. I was worried because of, he obviously has the huge game in the second week of the fantasy playoffs on my bench. If I was smart enough like you to have him in my lineup every week, I'd be the champion right now and not Mike. But
well, he's a wide receiver one.
He is. He is. But he came right back and he put out again in championship week. 19 fantasy points. So in reality, I really didn't lose anything from DK Metcalf not being available. Unlike Mike's team, my team wasn't deep on the bench. I didn't have many pieces on the bench to go to. Mike did. So this was the lineup I was really rolling with for a good amount of time. Other than having a quarterback decision between Hurts and Purdy, I really didn't have much else. Obviously I had the best wide receiver in fantasy this year, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and George Pickens, who was probably a top 3 or 4. So that was a dream combo. This team had Calvin Ridley, who gave nothing. And I'm trying to think who else. I lost a running back that was pretty good on this team at one point. But, I'm sorry. It was Tucker Kraft. I had Tucker Kraft on this bullet for the first 8 weeks. So this was a Tucker Kraft team that I lost him. And Kyle Pitts was my backup. And I guess, by the time Pitts started taking off midway through the season is he, picked up the slack for losing Tucker Kraft.
He was Tucker Kraft 2.0
He was Tucker Kraft
up until last night.
Not until last night when he was Tucker Kraft 0.0.
But shout out to Edelman. I want to join in on the congratulations. Mm-hmm. If you play in NFFC and you play in FFPC, he's a Hall of Famer, but he was pretty much up there in pretty much any league I saw on leaderboards. So just another hell of a season for him.
Yeah. I'm happy for Michael because I know that from talking to him that was kind of like a monkey on his back where he's seeing everyone around him winning overall titles and everything and I'm sure he feels like he's just as good as all of us, if not better. And that was the one thing kind of eluding him. So I'm really happy for him that he was able to take that down and you
all right, not too happy though, Nelson, right? I mean,
yeah. I was waiting for Chris to comment on that.
Nelson, who were you rooting for last night, you prick?
Yeah. So here's
we got it. Listen, it's tough to laugh right now.
I look at it as Chris has won an overall title. Okay. So he's won a main event already. Okay. So listen, it's time to give somebody else an opportunity. So I'd probably say that either way, I was going to be happy because I considered both of you guys friends of mine and very good players. So I was going to be equally happy if you had won. I'm just saying someone had to win, and I'm happy for Michael that he was able to take it down.
Listen, I totally get it, and I agree. Mike was the best player in this industry that didn't take down an overall. I say it to him every year. I tell him it's his time coming soon. I didn't know it'd be, at my expense. But, I travel out to Vegas with Mike. We talk all year long. We hang out. Like, Mike's a good friend. And as it was going down on Sunday, I was like, Mike, can you believe it looks like it's coming down to you and me. Mm-hmm. And, it was crazy. And I say this, we say this in our group of close, we have a close little niche group, right? If I'm not going to take down an overall or any event, I hope it's one of you guys. I hope it's Edelman, Billy Waz, Frank Mamola, our whole crew that we have dinner with out in Vegas. They're at the bar, at my bar, in New York. You want one of them to win it, and Mike was the most deserving. So I am happy for him, even though I'm wallowing in some, pain this morning. So shout out to him. But I know exactly what you guys
Come
are
on,
saying.
Chris. You're in Florida right now, enjoying the sun.
Look at
I was going to
this.
say,
I,
the
I don't,
therapy is
I don't
going
want to
well.
hear anything like that. I'm
I
over
told
here.
you.
Yeah,
If I would have took it down last
New
night, I
York.
would have did it. I was going to do the show from the pool. I was going to be in the pool doing the podcast, celebrating with champagne this morning. But, this is a nice consolation prize.
Yep, definitely. All right, let's.
Speaking of consolation, go ahead, Dan. We'll cover
No,
other things later.
no.
Let's put a bow on the silver bullet. Shout out to Edelman, well deserved, and he got his overall that it's been coveted.
Yep, for sure. All right, we'll move on to the NFFC primetime. I don't know if you guys know this guy. His name did not ring a bell to me, but his team name was at Raccaroni. Don't know how many entries he had or anything like that, but he made this one
Mystery
count.
Man, Dan.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know who that is because
None of us do. We were all asking late last night, like, who is this guy? Like, it's going to be revealed at some point.
If you're in the chat, show yourself. What's your real name?
Hey, but that's a good comment though, that you don't have to be somebody with 30 teams in there or whatever to take this thing down.
Right.
It's one good team. That's all it takes.
Yeah, and just on that note, I know we're going to get to it, but one good team is all it takes, and that's what won the gorilla. One bullet when he had the perfect draft. He had supposedly, from what I saw on Twitter, from Fantasy Mojo, who pretty much does all the work, he drafted one team on August 30th and had the perfect draft: CMC, Puka, JSN, Cook. I mean, that's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Dan, before we move on, Edelman is in the chat, and he said, "Thanks, Dan, for the New Orleans defense." Think about that, Dan. That was your call, Dan.
Yep.
That I honestly, nobody was talking about that Saints defense. Mike used him in week 2 for those 20 points, and he went back to him in championship week for 12 points. That was a major. That's another
Chase Young. You see that Chase Young play?
Hey, Dan, you screwed me by giving out your New Orleans defense, Dan.
Hey, you had access to the same information, Chris. It's not my fault he beat you to it.
I only had the Denver defense, who gave 5 points championship week. Go figure. The Saints defense was better than the Broncos defense in the fantasy.
Yeah, in fairness to you, Chris, I had both Denver and New Orleans in several places, and I mostly went Denver, and that did not work out too well.
That was a huge disappointment. Was the Broncos defense versus the Chiefs on Christmas night. I thought I was good for 15, 20 points right there, and they did nothing. So real disappointment. Shout out to Spiteri in the chat also all year long. He wants to know if I booked the Taj Mahal to celebrate my my fake championship. But shout out to him. Let's move on. Go ahead, the primetime championship.
All right, before we do that, we'll just go ahead and get this ad in and get that out of the way. We'll be right back.
Oh, big news. Fast Draft has 2 best ball tournaments live right now. The Origins All Rookie Game for 2026. That's right. 2026 best ball is upon us. All rookies with Origins, $10,000 prize pool. And then we have our playoff Super Slam. You just pick 6 guys for the entire NFL playoffs and you let it ride. That one also has a $10,000 prize pool. Yes, things are happening at Fast Draft. The code is FAST to get a $50 deposit match. Let's go.
All right, and we're back. And so we had the NFFC primetime winner was Raccaroni. He did it with a team of Bo Nix, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Chris Olave, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cortland Sutton, Trey McBride, Wan'Dale Robinson, the Seahawks for kicker, and Texans for defense. And Olave really factored into a lot of fantasy championships. He had an amazing run over the last 3 weeks. Derrick Henry as well. Just an amazing run. And Trey McBride sandwiched a couple of nice big games around one complete dud. Anything else jump out to you guys about the squad or the win or anything?
Based on ADP, I mean, Olave was probably the best pick of the draft if you just base it on ADP from where he was going and what he was able to accomplish. I mean,
I couldn't understand Olave's. Let me take that back. Everybody was scared off because of the concussions and how bad the offense was. But when you looked at Olave and his ADP, when draft season came, you could put this guy on your team as your wide receiver 4 in the 6th round, late 5th, and get an absolute target monster. And we've seen through the years now, even on bad teams, if you're the clear elite top option, it's going to be there. You're going to get 7 to 10 targets every game. And to me, that's what made me all in on Olave. He was one of my top owned wide receivers, and he came through, straight through the season. He was gold.
I'll tell you what, I got that wrong, guys, because I factored in quarterback a little too much in my thought process with Olave and some of the receivers that were going around him. I thought New Orleans was just going to be a shit team. I thought the quarterback situation was absolutely awful. And I didn't think that it was going to matter that he was the number 1 and that he was talented.
Yeah.
And that was part of my hesitation.
And that's obviously all the reasons for his suppressed ADP was that plus the concussions, or else he's a 2nd, 3rd round pick,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the FFPC, he was going even later. Like on the team that I finished 7th for me in the Gorilla, I got him at 7-11. And I wasn't super in on Olave, but I was taking him when, he was falling. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where a guy like that, to have that type of season where you got him, just really buoyed your teams.
I know that just looking at all the overall races, this week, mostly every team at the top, all the teams like in the top 5 of every contest, Olave was the name that was like on every single team. Obviously he had a great run in the fantasy playoffs, but like everybody had him. And it was just, and I'm interested as we go through these championship teams, even in the FFPC overalls, if he was on every single team. So this team is probably going to be the weirdest team that we look at that won any of these overall contests, right? Like nobody, like Bo Nix, like did he have a backup that he went to in the first couple of weeks? Or I know Bo Nix had a really good week 1 of the fantasy playoffs, correct?
Yeah, he did.
And then, obviously, listen, Derrick Henry shot this team up the standings. Amon-Ra had an unbelievable week 1. Sutton had an unbelievable week 1. Nelson, I know that Chad's team up top that you were involved with had this combination as well, right? Amon-Ra and Sutton.
Yeah.
Wandell, man. I mean, listen, Wandell obviously had an unbelievable championship week. I can't remember Wandell standing out to me in the first 2 weeks of the championship season.
He did all right, but
last week.
Why? Yeah, 10th.
Dart didn't
just put out
Dart didn't complete a pass. So I could.
10th overall
the
wide
Giants,
receiver. I don't usually, and sorry for covering you up here, Chris, but I don't.
Nobody wants
I
to see
don't
my
usually,
face.
look at like overall, because it just doesn't matter on a week-to-week game like this. But I was looking this morning and I was like, Wandale 10th overall, and I was like, I think my stat service must have a bug or something. That surely can't be right. And yeah, it is. So testament to obviously he came on once Neighbors went down.
So he was a wide receiver 1 this year.
He was a wide receiver 1.
But what's crazy is the Giants 2 years in a row had a chance to lock up the number 1 pick and went out and won. Winning 2 games all year.
I think they're happy with Dart though. So
yeah, still just the draft capital you get from that 1 pick.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but the thing is, if they'd have had that 1 pick though, don't you think they would have used it on Ward?
No,
No.
they're gonna trade for a complete package They have to.
They're
They-
looking
No,
for
no,
a
I mean,
Bears-
last year.
Oh.
Wouldn't they have used it on Cam Ward? You know,
well,
talk about your sliding doors. I mean, you know, that could have changed the Giants' entire franchise. Not that I think Ward is a bad player, but yeah, Jackson Dart is looking pretty special.
Listen, Trey McBride. I mean, listen, the pieces make sense. You needed Trey McBride or Pitts to win. Alave. So he had the Seahawks kicker in week 1, give the 23 points. The Texans defense was solid. This is a good team. This is a good team. I'm just surprised that it came out of nowhere. He was one of the few that had Derrick Henry, and that, who saw that coming out of nowhere was the Derrick Henry championship week. And I want to say that this guy that won the primetime, he cleared the field by 20 points. It wasn't close.
No, it was different because the OC after Sunday Night Football, the top 4 teams were like a point and a half separated. 2 points.
Oh, the OC run. The OC
That was
overall
crazy.
was a great run. I was kind of following that too. My boy Lou Weber was involved in that.
And Rob Geis, shout out to him as well.
Yeah, Geis was in it. The Guilds. The Guilds was in the running. But as in terms of this, I want to give a shout out to a good group of guys. Mike Fonte finished second overall. Prime time.
Yes.
Hit for 50K. We hang out with him out in Vegas. He rolls deep like what do you call it? Eddie Gillis does now. He's the new young Eddie Gillis who rolls in. He rolls into Vegas with a group 8 deep. And they sit at the draft table, 22 of them. But shout out to Fonte, who got the 50K second place. He had a great team, a great run. He had the Purdy CMC combination that shot him all the way up the standings. And if it wasn't for, I want to say, an off game by Puka last night, he could have won it. Somebody in his lineup. But that's the story. Nelson, anything you want to add? Obviously, just like, I'm a little down this morning. I'm sure you and Chad, don't feel great. Chad, you guys were in the driver's seat for the last 2 weeks. I'm personally shocked that, the chatterings behind the scenes, everybody like, I can't believe that, that it happened. Like, once you drop the 265 in week 1, followed up with like a 180, the title was there for the taking. What went wrong with that team, if you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So between us two, deep down inside, we knew the team wasn't very good at the end of the day. So it was kind of like it was with Band-Aids and duct tape that we put that team together. So it wasn't like, this team's a monster and we're going to get big scores out of our guys and we're going to win this. It was more like, please hold on. Please hold on. So that was more of our feeling, was that we just needed like solid games out of guys. But at the end of the day, like the team just wasn't very good. It was a Malik Neighbors team taken in the first round. And then ended up with Jaden Daniels in the 5th round. So 2 out of the first 5 picks were, basically busts or guys that, couldn't help the team. It would have made for a great story because the narrative is if you lose your first round pick or your first round pick is a bust, you can't win an overall title. So that would have been kind of neat to win it and tell that story that you can grind your way to an overall title. So it didn't happen, but my point of view has changed on that. If you can grind, you can withstand losing your first round pick. So unfortunately, these other teams, guys put up big scores and the players on that team just didn't do enough, to do it. So like Amon-Ra and Sutton didn't have good games, for what you would hope. It was on the winner, but again, the winner's got Derrick Henry and he's got McBride and Olave putting up, big scores. So
And week 7 and championship week was a low scoring week.
It was.
So it didn't take my. I mean, Edelman. I'm only talking from the boat. Edelman was the only player in the whole field to break 200 points. I don't know how many in the prime did it. I believe this player. I think he was like high, like 190s. But nobody put up big numbers, right?
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of like it is what it is. It was out of our control. Chad's disappointed because it's an overall title has eluded him now for a few years, and that's kind of the prestige, right, of winning an overall title. Makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So that was disappointing for him, but I'm sure he's going to share. Eventually on Twitter and everything. He usually like sends out a little, recap. But I can tell you right now that for not winning an overall title, he was in for just shy of $700K, okay, in entry fees this year, and he cashed 1.1 million.
Woo.
Yeah.
No overall titles, 400K profit.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll take that every year. That's just impressive. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unreal.
50% ROI.
Yep.
All right. Nelson, did you want to mention the platinum real quick?
Yeah, so the platinum, that's the big league, right, in our industry. It's a 20K entry. It's the biggest entry that we have that's, like a non-private league. And it's done at the NFFC, and up top, I believe it's 120K. So I should know that because I've actually won that twice with David Hubbard in the past. So we've won the platinum twice together.
Wow.
Huh?
I'm sorry. With Hubbard, because now Steve won it with Hubbard.
So that's what I'm going to say is the common denominator is Hubbard. I thought I was like doing good, right? I was patting myself on the back, 2 platinum wins. It was fucking Hubbard that was carrying me all these years.
Hubbard's the secret ingredient.
He's the common denominator in this shit. So
another hell of a player.
David Hubbard and Steve G, they partnered up in the platinum, and they ran away with it this year. I want to say they won it by maybe like 40. Wasn't like a real sweat. So, that's really cool. David Hubbard's a really good friend of mine. I've gotten to know Steve very well. Great dude. I'm really happy for those guys that they were able to pull it off. And now Hubbard can, he can say he's a 3-time platinum, winner, that's a big deal when you're talking about a 20K buy-in.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking about that platinum team and race with Steve G during the week. He had some really big pieces on that team. I know he was hurting at running back coming down the stretch, but I'm sure he played Trevion Henderson. I mean, he didn't have a big game, but it was either that or Taj Brooks he was going to have to play. So
I know we don't have a printout of that team, but to memory, I'm pretty sure I'm familiar with it.
Yeah,
they had Trevor Lawrence and Drake May.
I remember that also, Nelson, from him telling me during the week. Who did they go with?
They went with they played musical chairs at quarterback and fucking got it wrong every week.
Are you kidding
so
me?
They played Trevor this week.
Wow. And they didn't get Trevor's 57 in week 1?
And no, they I believe they played Drake that week.
And they still wound up winning, going away.
Yeah. RJ Harvey and Trevion. So they must have thought they were playing Dynasty. That it was a confined Dynasty.
RJ Harvey and Trevion Henderson.
There you go.
That's a Modica double.
That's the Modica special right there, baby.
Modica special right there.
Hey.
Matt Modica, baby oil all over the place, drafting this team. My God. Did you have a piece in this team, in this platinum team, Matt?
I wish.
I wish.
Oh, my God. Drake May.
Yep.
on top of it with Trevion and RJ Harvey.
Those are my
Listen to
three
this wide
egos.
receiver There,
Hubbard is one of the biggest YOLO players out there, no doubt about it.
oh, 100%. 100%. He's either it's go big or go home. So he's either going to crash and burn with some teams, but if he hits like this team, they're going to run away with it.
Yeah.
And listen to the wide receiver group: Puka Nacua, AJ Brown, Chris Olave were the wide receivers on this team.
Ooh.
And their first round pick was Brian Thomas Jr.
Holy shit.
Tight end doesn't even matter.
When
I
he
don't
sent
think
it during the week, I was like, oh, Brian Thomas is going to come up big for you in championship week versus the Colts. I was like, I can't believe you're doing this, like, with Brian Thomas. So, Puka covered up a lot of Puka and Olave covered up a lot of holes.
Oh, 100%. They didn't even have a tight end on this team.
That's
and
right. That's right.
They had Mason Taylor and Kate Otten, I think.
Oh my God.
So
They got
But again, it
nothing
goes
out
to
of a tight end.
prove about the first round pick. Brian Thomas, you said, was their first round pick?
Brian Thomas was their first
Again,
round pick.
it's not easy to do. It's not going to happen too often. But you can win even if you lose your first round pick. It can happen because Brian Thomas was a zero, and I was a big Brian Thomas guy.
Yeah. And this league was drafted on Saturday night. It was like the last draft of the season at NFFC.
I was there, Nelson. I sat at the table with Steve G and Hubbard.
Yeah. And they got a couple of good deals. So Puka in the second round, I think they drafted out of the 9-hole, and they got Puka in the second round. AJ Brown coming off that bad game. Remember the
Sure.
the Thursday night game, Friday night game. Fourth round, AJ Brown. And Trevion
he torpedoed down after that opening game.
Yeah. Yep.
And a guy like Hubbard, and I'm sure Steve with him, you're going to take that chance 100 out of 100 times. When you got balls to do something like that with the big money on the line. Santos is the same type of drafter in these big leagues. I drafted him in the Diamond. You do as well, Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of us, we're gonna buy the dip. We're gonna buy. All right, you want to give me? I couldn't try and get Devonta Smith and George Pickens after their dip more in those last 2 days on Friday and Saturday of those drafts. Everybody was running scared after bombing one game. I was trying. Dak Prescott, the same thing. Anybody that bombed, I'm trying to scoop up those shares in the 6th round, 7th round. As much as possible, and they were running towards the fire instead of away from the fire with the AJ Brown late 4th round.
So I want to give credit to Santos in this league because the draft unfolded and as the season unfolded, I thought he made a huge mistake. He was in the 12 hole of this draft.
I was going to bring that up.
And he went Chase Brown, Tet McMillan at the turn. And he passed on Puka. Okay.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking to myself all year, he's got to be kicking himself. He's got to be kicking himself for passing on Puka there. And it's a 20K draft. You take your fucking guys. I believe in that. I believe in being aggressive. And when the big money's on the line, it's your money. You got to take the guys you believe in. Obviously, he looked at Puka as kind of like a fade. I'm not reading his mind, but in the 12 hole, if you take McMillan, that's your guy. That's what you're saying. You're planting a flag.
But you know what's crazy is Chase Brown, one of the craziest stats of the year. Chase Brown, after 5 games, had 160 yards rushing after 5 games. And now he's averaged 101 points in his last 11 games total. Plus 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, so, total monster.
Night and day for Chase Brown, and Chase Brown delivered a lot of money this championship round run. But
so I'm kind of saying that I'm kind of throwing Santos under the bus, but this is to actually say a credit to him of how good he is. is that he was able to overcome that, and his team made the playoffs in this league. Okay, and I want to say he cashed. I'm not positive, but I think he cashed in this league. And again, like Chase Brown down the stretch, he did get JSN in the third round. And I think the league winner for him, like what made the difference, he had Travis Etienne on his team.
So I like how you got that in there, Nelson.
You like that, right?
That was well done. That was professional. Like,
you see that? Travis Etienne, you can withstand fading Puka if you get Travis Etienne in the 8th round.
Yeah. Just real quick with Santos and talking about having balls and not only for 20K did he take Tet McMillan in the early 2nd round, but he did the same exact thing at the turn in the diamond for 10K that I was in. So usually you get in these big leagues now. I don't play in all of them. Nelson, you usually do. Santos does. Hubbard, guys like that. Usually you would think spread around a little bit, get a little different combinations. Santos doesn't give a shit. He'll take the same guy in all of them. And if that guy breaks his leg week 1, well, he's effed, in all 3 leagues.
In fairness, though, in fairness with McMillan, I watched this guy. I was in on him too, and I watched him. It's basically the quarterback that ruined this guy's season. Like he would have had a monster season if he had an above average quarterback, or at least more than competent.
No, Tet passes the eye test. There was a time during the season early that I remember, and Tet McMillan was a full fade for me this year. I had 0 shares. I say that because at one point I remember saying to myself, oh shit, I'm wrong. And this one's going to hurt bad, because he had a couple weeks in a row where he was jumping off the screen and he was putting numbers together. It looked like it was clicking early. And I was like, this guy's going to be an elite receiver. And sometimes, you got to secretly start rooting against certain guys in your portfolio. He was definitely one of them at a time.
What was crazy is how many insane catches he had that was like out of bounds, just barely, and stuff like that. I mean, Bryce Young I thought Young was going to had a chance to be good this year, and he was a guy I took very late, but he's terrible.
Yeah, it was like the exact same opposite problem of Xavier Worthy, who is always out of bounds because he doesn't know where he's at on the field, and Mahomes is trying to hit him on the sideline. Whereas with McMillan, it was like Young was trying to hit him, and he would throw it just far enough out of bounds that there was no way that Tet could come back, get his feet down in the field of play. I had plenty of Tet too, and it was really frustrating to see that. And then, these long stretches where it was like the guy was just invisible. Bryce Young, it was like he didn't even think he was on the field.
But that was kind of the argument, like Chris, you mentioned earlier about like Olave, and people were worried about the quarterback and the offense being bad. And like Tet, that kind of hurt him. That's what like took him down, was the offense and the quarterback. It was
Matt, that's why there's no what's the word? There's no nothing's in stone in
I got you.
Sometimes playing, going after an Olave, even though his offense sucks and quarterback sucks, works when he's an elite receiver. Then sometimes it doesn't. With
I was just trying to give the contrast.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm just saying that's what makes this such a crazy hobby, and when we're strategizing and everything, some things don't make sense in the same exact scenario as other things. Like, this running back, he's a great running back, but he's got a bad offensive line. Well, then sometimes it sucks and he gets killed behind the offensive line. And sometimes he shines because he gets it done on volume. So, sometimes you're right.
Was that an Gentry reference?
Yeah, exactly. You know what? It is.
That kid's a beast. That kid is a beast. I felt so bad for him this year.
Yeah. So I'm glad we talked about that platinum. I'm glad we got that out. Shout out to our boy Steve G and Hubbard. Congratulations. That's a huge prize. And yes, Steve, I didn't forget. We're going to celebrate at the bar. I'm going to put a whole crew together, all our, tri-state area guys. I want to get them in for a playoff game, and we'll celebrate you and Edelman and everyone else that took down big prizes this year. Nelson, you'll be coming too, buddy.
All right.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Yeah.
When are we doing this?
We're going to do it one of the playoff weeks, maybe the first week of the playoffs. I want to have everybody at the bar. Matt, Dan, if you want to fly in for
Trust
it.
me, it's very tempting. It's very tempting.
I would be happy to do that, but I'm afraid that my butt is going to be stuck in a beach in
That's
St.
right.
Martin.
Oh, yeah. Bougie Dan, everybody. Bougie Dan's going to the tropics for a month. You guys are giving me something, busting my balls about being in Florida for a couple of days over here. Dan's going to an island for 2 months.
I just figured it out. Dan owns some daycare centers.
Yeah. There you go. Hey, Matt.
Ouch.
She's going to
Ouch.
fly you in for a Christmas gift.
Yeah, I'm in.
There you go. It's going to be on Spirit Airlines, though.
Trust me, the
Steve,
only
I-
daycare I would ever own would have no kids in it. So,
Steve, I need you to pay for my train ticket.
Yeah. There you go.
all right.
All right, Dan. What do we got next?
All right, let's move on to you gotta give Wilson Moy his props here. He won the
Wilson
RotoWire Online Championship, so congrats to him. And just on a personal note, when I was very new to going out to Vegas, Wilson was one of the first people who, I kind of talked to. I was sitting next to him in a draft, and we got to be really good friends, and just. He was a very welcoming guy, and when you're out there for the first or second time and you don't really know that many people or barely anybody, and just being able to see a friendly face or two is a really cool thing. And
How did I
Wilson was
not
one of those
realize
guys.
that it was Wilson that won? I didn't even realize.
Really?
That.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It
Yeah.
was
He
his
is-
username doesn't come up as his name, right?
His team names are always funny. Like that's how you tell it's Wilson's teams is he always comes up with something creative as his team names. But I forgot how I looked a couple weeks ago when he was up top and I figured out it was his team. And I was like, oh man, this is great that Wilson's in I like Wilson a lot. I told
Yeah,
you
he's a
about
good dude.
Vegas. Good dude. And another guy that,
I should have got that at W. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah, W.
That's I should have been able to put that.
I'll
too.
tell you what; those first three players that listen, all the credit he
Nelson
won. It's his
special.
team, but
Yeah.
those three top players are like that's Team Nelson right there.
that is.
Oh, Nelson
Great,
taking a
Devontae,
cut.
Travis. That's telling me I was on the right track, even though my
Saints.
team crashed and burned and fizzled.
Saints D again, Dan.
There it is.
You got to get royalty checks.
Dan's going to become the defensive savant.
People call people the tight end whisperer, the running back. Dan's the defense whisperer.
I got that one down pretty good this year anyway. So
Yeah.
that's a title that seems to come and go though. So who knows if I'll be any good at it next year.
Yeah.
But,
Now this team makes complete sense to win an overall, right? All the pieces you needed.
Yep.
You needed either Drake May. I mean, I know we just came off of a guy that won an overall, and Bo Nix was his starting. But for the most part, Drake May, Brock Purdy, right? Those were the quarterbacks you needed. You see Olave again. Pitts and Bijan week 1 got Wilson off to the same start I was off to in the bullet. Dream start. He didn't even, I guess, obviously need Kyle Pitts last night to give him anything because Bijan dropped 40. But that's the dream. That's the combination right there. Bijan, JSN, Olave. I'm a little surprised to see Zay Flowers on this team. I don't know if that was just a
Zay
championship
was
week sliding.
He was a low
He
end
was solid, though.
2-3 receiver
Right?
all year.
Yeah,
He
he
was-
wasn't Zay like 18, 20 points like all 3 weeks?
Yeah,
No,
Zay did
Really?
great in the shootout, without a doubt. It was like you had to drag him along though, because he didn't do anything between like week 1 and week 14 or 15.
Yeah. Well, he gave 13 in championship week just this past week, but I didn't know he had another other good week. I don't remember his first 2 weeks of the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah. Dan, can you pull it up, or one of us pull it up? Because I want to say, because I had Zay Flowers on some teams, and I want to say the first 2 weeks of the shootout, he was good. Like
He definitely had one really good because I had him too, but
Yeah.
He was all season long. He basically was like the early 20s to low 30s as a wide receiver for the most part, is where his average was, which is pretty much where you drafted him. So as like your wide receiver 3. So I mean that's he basically lived up to that.
Yeah. Even ETN, you know, what did ETN give this championship week? 14 points?
No, I want to say it was like 9 or 10 points, but he was very good the first 2 weeks.
The first 2 weeks, very good. And obviously, going back to, you know, we asked this question on this show going into the sprint, what one player do you need for the sprint? And we were saying between Gibbs, CMC, Jonathan Taylor, or Bijan. The answer was clearly Bijan. I mean, Bijan just had the
yes, Bijan. Chris, you were asking when is Bijan? Remember?
Yes.
Yeah. And last night I'm watching the game and I'm like, Chris is gonna get it. He's gonna get his 50 burger today.
And
like you said, that one run.
We said, and then he had a couple of them. You know, since we spoke about that, we said, when is Bijan gonna break off those long touchdowns, whether it's rushing or receiving?
Is he now the 1-1 next year?
I'm
going to say
I think it's cemented Bijan. Maybe, you know, Nelson, Dan, you chime in. But 3 weeks ago, even 2 weeks ago, everybody was like, Gibbs is cemented as the 1-1 going in. How quickly things turn. I don't think there's anybody. I was still sticking with Bijan. I said Bijan will be my 1-1.
I'm one of the biggest Gibbs defenders, and I got to say 1-1.
I know I'm the biggest Bijan fan
for Bijan right now.
Bijan is the 1-1 going into next year. Somebody, I forgot who said it last night. Algier is a free agent, I believe. And they did this without 2 of their best offensive linemen that got hurt, McGarry and somebody else. They get those 2 guys back, and if Algier walks and Bijan has it's a clear 1-1 in my opinion next year.
And just get a decent quarterback, you know.
Yeah, I think for me, Gibbs had too many down games.
He disappeared.
He had monsters,
Yeah.
but he had too many down games. Whereas like Bijan, I think, was pretty consistent throughout, and then obviously capable of monster games.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but that top of the draft board next year will be filthy loaded.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. All right, moving on to the main event.
Before we move on, being that Drake May was on this team, do we all know now what Lisan Al-Ghalib means? or do we not?
Unbelievable, man. And I'll tell you what, while we're talking about Drake May, for everybody that didn't have Drake May this championship week, you were praying that they pulled him after halftime. You were just counting the minutes down until they pulled the plug. And there was a time at that game where Vrabel wasn't taking the foot off the gas, and you were like, holy shit, if he stays in all 4 quarters, this is going to be a 60-point performance.
Yeah, things started getting chippy in that game, and he took a big hit.
Yeah.
And then that's when Vrabel pulled him. But if he kept him in, he was going to put up a silly number.
Yeah, I mean, he did put up a silly number, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, even sillier. But it was so easy. You know, that's the dream games when you have your quarterback and it's just picking and choosing whatever he wants to do, rushing and receiving. Drake May was
a 7-on-7 drill.
Yeah, exactly. It looked like a 7-on-7 drill versus the Jets. Unbelievable.
All right, let's move on to the FFPC and main event. Another team I'm not familiar with.
Look at that, Dan. Travis Etienne.
What do you know?
Etienne again.
What do you know?
So there we go. Yeah, this is this is another team where you look at it and it's not hard to figure out how they won. They had the San Francisco connection there with Purdy and McCaffrey. What an engine that was during the
Praise be. That helped me.
Then you got Etienne, Olave, kind of those players out of the middle of the drafts that nobody wanted, and so being able to pick that value, and then Kyle Pitts, same sort of thing, and even Juan Jennings. There were a lot of people who were more in on Pearsall, and just forget Jennings, not worth it. And Jennings didn't do that much. this week, but he had his moments during the season for sure that could help you out. In this case, it was a little bit more of an anchor that was holding him back with both Pitts and Jennings this last week. That was not a good combo, but everybody else did fantastic for this team.
Just an unbelievable run for Purdy in this championship 3-week sprint as well. I mean, just crazy numbers. And now he's running to get 2 rushing touchdowns championship week. I mean, if you were blessed to have the combination of the Purdy and McCaffrey together, I can only imagine what that was like watching.
That was what I had
game
in the Big Gorilla
on Sunday night. Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy. But yeah, this is as close to a dream team as you can ask for. Would have blew out the field even more if Fannin played the second half, I'm sure.
A couple of things. Dan, do you know who Foo Fighters is?
I have no idea.
Okay, so I got to give this fucker props because he won $1 million. Okay, we're talking about his first place team. He had a team finish 3rd overall.
Yes.
Also,
No shit.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to know who it was.
So
First and third.
1.1 million because $100K to 3rd place.
Yep.
Was it built the same way? I mean, do we have eyes on that team?
I would have to pull it up and see.
Hang on.
And you know what's crazy? I bet he's
Got it,
like a diehard Niners fan. He's probably West Coast. Look at that. Purdy, McCaffrey, Jennings,
Okay, and
Yep.
let me give you one more thing with this team. You know what's missing here on this team?
A defense?
No. It's either his first or second round pick is missing.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're right.
Do the ADP.
yeah, you're right.
McCaffrey.
His
you're right.
second or first round pick, because McCaffrey fell right into the second round in some drafts. So, but this was August 5th, so I'm going to say he's missing his second round pick.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there, Nelson.
I wonder
Or maybe it's depending.
Because JSN, he didn't push up to the second round.
Yeah, especially in FFPC, JSN
Yeah.
was like a late 3rd rounder,
Yeah.
mid to late at least.
It's crazy though. Like JSN and Olave have been on every single team we've seen so far. Correct?
What was
Yeah,
key
pretty
this
much.
year? Even if you drafted Brock Purdy, which I did a lot, is he didn't kill you because you were able to get Mac Jones and put him in there. And Mac Jones was good. He wasn't super fantastic, but during the season, if your other backup was crap or whatever, and you went with him, he didn't kill you. So I mean, I thought that was interesting.
Do you guys remember the game that I'm forgetting who they were playing against? I think it was a bad team. It was San Francisco was at home. It was coming off of a good Purdy game when he just when he came back off being hurt. I remember I went to him and he bombed in that game. Threw 3 interceptions early. I was like, oh my God, they're going to bench him. He was like one more bad series away from them going back to Mac Jones. The crowd was booing. It was a complete epic bomb.
Wait till you see this draft board. Holy smokes.
Does anybody
All right,
remember
so-
that game?
Here's that team, the 3rd place team run by that same Foo Fighters.
Yeah, click on the link up top.
Yeah, up top, the main event with the blue.
Yep. Click on that and then click on draft board.
Oh, Mike Edelman says his
See, I
second
gotta-
round pick on that championship team was Lad McConkey.
Jeez.
Hang on, I'll pull it up here.
I made that mistake in the GST prime time. I had CMC and I was going to go with JT, and I was like, I got to get a wide receiver here with this room. It's going to be nobody. And I went with Lad over JT.
Oof.
All
Night
right.
and day difference, Matt.
And I want to finish in 4th place in that league.
Yeah. Matt, we got it before the show. I want to get to your team that finished high in the overalls. I know you were 3rd overall going into last night, right?
Yeah, I finished 7th.
7th overall?
7th overall in the Gorilla.
What was the
All right,
payout?
this is-
Bud?
I think it's $9
That's the
grand.
wrong team, Dan.
Yeah, good job.
That's
Awesome.
not the one you're looking for.
That's
I was
the
happy to
wrong
stay
draft.
top
That's
10. I
that's
was
that
worried.
3rd place team.
Shit.
This
You were
is
looking for the 1st place team.
Yeah, so third. I mean, we can look at the 3rd place team real quick since you have it up.
I just killed that one. Let me put up the 1st place team though. It'll take just a second.
While Dan does that, Matt, who was on your third or your seventh overall team?
I got CMC and I started CMC and what's his name, Trey McBride, and and then it wasn't too good. I mean, I had Garrett Wilson, I had Worthy, but what really bailed me out was at 7-11, I had Olave. I took Warren at 8-2. I got Scatterboo, so the Warren Scatterboo combination. What really killed me from having a chance this week was going into Sunday. I had 30 points between 4 players. Christmas Day was not like the Alvin Kamara Christmas Day of years past. I had JMO, and I had who's the Broncos? Troy Franklin. That got me like 10, 11 points combined. And then I had Zay Flowers, who at least got the touchdown. But
Christmas
if I could have got something good. But I put up 175. I mean, I had Purdy and CMC combo. I had the Olave and McBride. So I'm happy to, to finish where I did. And,
nice. Yeah, it was. Listen, it was all the same small group of players, just different combinations of
Well,
it.
isn't that the case? I mean, it's different in say it's going to be like a handful of guys in the shootout, but basically for the fantasy season, there's like a handful of guys, and you want to get as many of those guys as possible. Like the guy that won the Gorilla pretty much got 4 of them, So if you can get 3 of those guys, like JSN, Puka, and a Cook on your team, or CMC, that's what really does it for you. And then a couple other hits there, or Fabad in the season.
This is Dan. What team is this that's up right now?
This is that first place main event team.
First, the guy who just won the first overall.
Yeah. So team.
Wow, and he did it with Bowers as his first round pick, who didn't even play. In
no.
Teammate.
Teammate. So you had McCaffrey.
Oh Jesus, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the where the red thing was. McCaffrey, Ladd, JSN. Kamara, he gets nothing out of his 4th round pick. Connor dead in the 5th round. Unbelievable.
Like you look at this team, you're not thinking that's an overall, but
well, now he gets on fire with that run. Pitts, Purdy, Brandon Aubrey as a kicker.
Yep. Yeah, not being afraid to draft Aubrey early, and then he had picked up Fannin in the last round.
Oh, 20th round Fannin. There you go.
That's a way to play.
Yeah.
So
when we get to now, this isn't the Gorilla, right?
No,
guys?
This is not the Gorilla.
So when we get to the Gorilla, because Matt sent me the team yesterday, I thought it was fascinating. The guy who won it all in his draft. So we'll get to that next. But anything stand out to you on that team, guys? Besides
on this main event team, I mean, he had the pieces that carried him, and we'll talk about this, right? But I want to mention it now. The key takeaway that I'm taking away from this is you don't have to have the perfect draft.
No, not at all. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that next. But did he play Ladd McConkey, his 2nd round pick, this championship week?
No, he did not. He played Olave, JSN, and then he played Pitts and Juwan Jennings as his flexes.
I mean, it really is amazing. Your 2nd, 4th, and 5th round picks, you don't even have championship week, and you still win $1 million.
Yeah.
Well, your second, your 4th round pick in Kamara, your 5th round pick in Connor.
That's what I'm saying.
But like I said, the 1 to 3 and the 6 was the glue.
Yeah.
And obviously, we getting Fanning in the 20th, whatever in-season moves he made.
Yeah. And then he picked up Purdy, or is it Purdy drafted on this
No,
team?
he drafted Purdy.
He drafted Purdy in the 12th.
And he waited.
But I wonder what he did at quarterback all year long when Purdy was down and out.
I don't know. He had two.
He had Tua, Chris.
Yeah.
He could have picked up Mac Jones, like I was saying.
Yeah.
I did that on my Purdy teams.
Yeah, I did too.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Unbelievable.
All right. Let's move on to that the Gorilla here. Let me pull that up.
You want to know his quarterbacks on that he had with Purdy to finish the season? Tyrod Taylor, Shador Sanders.
See, I would try
So
to-
much for the elite quarterback, huh?
Right.
He did have Michael Wilson though on this team, so
Oh, all right. So he did add
we
Michael
benched
Wilson.
him.
That was
We
huge.
benched him last week, but I'm sure Wilson carried him. And
Wow, he
Huge
benched
shootout.
Michael Wilson versus the Bengals, huh? That's
Yeah.
bold.
he wanted to stack the 49ers is my guess.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, listen, Jennings going into this championship week to me was like a wide receiver one.
Yes, I
Matchup
thought so
there,
too.
so I can't knock that at all. So this is the guy who won the gorilla, correct?
Correct.
All right. So do we have his draft board by any chance?
Probably pull it up here.
Christian Watson dropping a 23 championship week with Malik Willis at quarterback. It was you're just running pure at this. He did this with the Tampa Bay shit defense, giving like nothing every week.
He picked up Trevor Lawrence and Christian Watson in season after perfection in the first 4 rounds.
Circling back, Trevor Lawrence was the quarterback I left out when I said Drake May or Brock Purdy. You had obviously Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy. Go figure. Think about that. None of those quarterbacks were drafted in the top 10. They were all QB2s pretty much, right? Those were the 3 quarterbacks that led everybody to overall titles.
Well, that's going to be the thing next year. You got to expect the elites are all going to fall back again now. We're going to
It's
go
gonna
back
be-
to a couple of years ago.
Agreed.
And
Even better, Matt, because guys like me and all of us that, take advantage of that, no one's going to be in a rush to pull up quarterbacks. You're going to see quarterbacks be a forgotten thing in drafts next year again and just say, oh, Trevor Lawrence and Drake May and Brock Purdy won everybody money. You could win with solid quarterbacks late. And
I will have 2 good quarterbacks, though. I'm not waiting until, my second quarterback late, unless there's somebody that I really love. I think it's just imperative. But, injuries are part of the game. That's why I never say, my team didn't win this year because I got injuries. That's part of fantasy football.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to happen to everybody.
all right, but while we're on the topic, as Dan pulls this board up before we dive into this, just talking about quarterback real quick for next year, right? Josh Allen had a bad ending to his fantasy season in a way. And unless they give him big weapons in the offseason, Mahomes is coming off ACL. Lamar killed people. Jaden Daniels killed people. Like, what is the quarterback landscape for fantasy going to look like? Is there going to be a quarterback that's even looked at in the first 4 rounds of NFFC drafts?
I got to think Drake May is the one guy that because he can run and
Are you telling me you think Drake May is 1-1 is QB1 next year going?
I think he's going to be one of the guys that people are going to look. If they get a receiver in there, you got Trevion, who looks like he looks like he could be a beast, and this guy's throwing the deep ball. This guy throws. I think I love May. I'm a Bills fan. I love May, but I think Stafford should be the MVP. I don't care about the game yesterday versus the Jets. Stafford.
Drake May would never lose to the Falcons in prime time.
He's beaten two. He's beaten
Drake May
2
would not
teams
throw
over
2 pick
500.
sixes.
You know who Nelson's MVP goes to? Nelson, who's the first quarterback off the board in fantasy?
It's going to be
drafts
Josh
next
Allen,
year?
and Drake May is going to be a top 3 quarterback, ADP wise.
Yeah, I mean, May's
You
definitely
broke
top
up on
3.
my
It's
answer.
not.
Say it again.
Allen, Burrow, Jackson, most likely, and
Allen,
Drake
Burrow,
May.
Now, fuck Jackson. Jackson, to me, he's got no heart.
I agree. I'm just saying I think he's probably going to get pushed up into the top 4 regardless. I'm not saying I'm taking
Well,
it.
I mean, you look at Lamar Jackson's again. His first 5 weeks, I think 4 of those 5 weeks, he had 35 points or more.
Right.
If Lamar is depressed, you have to draft him, even if you're wrong. And you can draft another quarterback in round 10.
I'll tell you what. If he's going like top 3 quarterbacks and he's like still like a 4th round pick, I'm not going to be interested. My biggest one of my takeaways, and I know we're going to get to it. Okay, I'm going to throw another one. Wait on quarterback. You wait on quarterback and you double tap it. That's
you definitely got to double tap.
That's what works. That's what's been
Nelson,
working.
Or
I
even
agree
triple
with
tap.
that, but I'm telling you now, I already know how drafts are going to go next year. That's going to be everyone's strategy. Everyone's strategy. And what that's going to do is going to force a guy like me to say, F it. You're going to give me Lamar in round 7? F it. You're going to give me Drake May in round 6, 7, whatever their ADP winds up becoming, because it's going to be suppressed, because everyone's going to say, oh my God, you can give me so-and-so quarterback in round 12, and then I'll double tap in round 14 with this quarterback. Everyone's going to say that. So now it drops all the big name quarterbacks down, and a guy like me says, well, that's the fucking value right there.
Yep.
And
that was my
strategy
That's
changes.
a different story, Chris.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me all like these type of quarterbacks, Allen and Lamar and Burrow are going to go like 7th round, that's now we're talking a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
I'm
would
talking
think
about
6th
with
round,
the assumption if they're still going in the 4th round and the 3rd round like they did this year, I'm going to wait at quarterback. If you're telling me everyone's thinking the same thing and they're going to go 7th round, I'm going to take them in the 7th round.
I don't see them
think there's
going
any way
3rd.
They'll go 7th round because somebody's always going to take
I don't
them
see either, actually. I don't see these quarterbacks like Allen, Burrow going 3rd round and next year, but I also don't see 7th round.
Yeah.
You know,
I think 4th, 5th.
I think it'll be like you'll start seeing the big quarterback names in the 5th round next year.
So you don't think 6, 7 then, Chris?
I think 5, 6. Yeah,
Dan,
look at you.
I couldn't get it. I wasn't getting it in one more time, Dan.
All right, so here let's look at this team real quick, and then we'll move on to talking a little bit about next year and so forth. So, Team 8 was the winner. So, interestingly enough, both the main event and the gorilla were won by somebody drafting out of the 8 hole.
Yeah.
All right, we got McCaffrey, Puka, Jackson Smith and Jigba, James Cook.
Yeah.
I mean,
complete nuts. The complete nuts.
you almost don't have to read any farther to know.
Yeah, but wait, Dan, that's why I wanted to talk about this team, because Matt sent me this in our group chat, and I looked at all 20 rounds, and he hit on the first 4 rounds like perfect. It was the perfect first 4 rounds. He didn't have a useful piece after that, pretty much. I went through and I'm like, all right, Abuka was great for 3-4 weeks. Pearsall had a nice little run early, and then obviously Kyle Pitts midway through the season late. But think about all the bust after bust: Evan Ingram, Jordan Mason, Baker Mayfield.
Pitts.
Look at his
Ertz
quarterbacks.
Pitts ended up being a pretty good tandem because you could play Ertz early in the season, and then when he got hurt, you could go right to Pitts, and you were
Picking
fine.
up Trevor Lawrence won him the overall.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Rashad White, he had a nice stretch in the middle of the season, which I'm sure kept this guy aloft. Quentin Johnson, a nice early stretch, and came on again a little bit late.
I mean, he totally whiffed on
Keep
quarterback.
going down. Wait, go down, Dan. Like nothing. No useful piece. Rashad White, useless. Kyle Williams, useless. Keandre Miller, useless. Pierce, useless. Quentin Johnston, it was a nice 19th round pick.
Rashad White was
early
good
on.
during the middle of the season. He probably kept him up during the bye weeks a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
But it just goes back to the point of you hit on 4 or 5 perfect picks throughout your draft. That's sometimes good enough to carry you.
yeah.
He had that. Then he picked up Lawrence and Watson. So those were
Right.
2 big
And Watson. There you go.
ads.
There you go. Couple ads. But, I thought this one stood out to me big time just because you couldn't have a more perfect first 4 rounds and then really nothing else. And you made a couple good pickups and you're $1 million richer.
Abuka carried him the first 4 weeks
Yeah.
of the year.
Yeah.
So he got off to a hot
Season,
start.
Nelson. The next 14
see,
weeks
this-
after that's a long way to go.
This is one of those drafts where you kind of feel like, it's the Matrix and, Neo dodging the bullets or whatever. The way that these players kind of came together on his team where, you had Abuka carrying him for a while and then, Rashad White, carrying things for a little while. All these things happening, early on in the season or during the bye weeks to the point where, even Jordan Mason had a few good weeks. It's, so it's just like, this guy had to be just sort of mixing and matching throughout the season, and then everything came together for him at the end.
And still, the most impressive thing was his one. He only drafted 1 gorilla in a tournament of like 15,000 entries.
How about that return on interest? Return on investment.
$350 to $1 million. Get your calculators, people.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to our group, our chat. It's lit, as the kids would say.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, before we move on, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back.
And we're back.
Hey.
It took a 10-second delay.
Good job. Yes. See, now I've got Nelson where he's doing it just perfectly, so I can write down the time. And
I'm trying to help you with the editing, Dan.
yes, it's amazing. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. All right, so let's talk about a few other questions. I know we've spent a long time on the league winners and all that, but I'm curious, Nelson, just kind of lead us off. What strategies did you do this year that you thought worked really well for you? Anything you want to talk about that you were really happy with from this year?
So part of my process every year is once the year ends, I usually decompress for like a week. So like week 18, I don't think about football. Move on. I'm going away with the family because they haven't seen me for like 4 months.
Nelson's been in the man cave downstairs for 4 months. It's like he arises. He comes out of he comes out from the basement after 4 months. They're like, "Dad, you're back." Wife is like, "All right, I missed you, honey."
Yeah.
Where have you been? I've been
you've
doing
grown.
fab for 5 months.
How you doing, son? You've grown so much. Yeah, so we're gonna go to a cabin, I think in Maine. My wife planned it, so it's Maine, New Hampshire, or something. We're gonna be in the woods, and just secluded and
Hopefully your Wi-Fi is better than Dan's.
Hey, I think I might have better Wi-Fi in St. Martin. I don't know.
yeah. So, but after the break, part of my process that I do every year is I look back at draft boards and I look back at the running backs that were thought highly of going into the season that disappointed, and I write them down, and then I will revisit that when I go and do my article that I do every year, which is kind of like it's basically called like this year's Josh Jacobs / this year's Chase Brown / for this year was Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne. Okay, so that's going to be the article for next season.
I got your headline for 2026, Kenneth Walker.
He's probably going to make the list. So what I do is I look at and then I start looking at a few draft boards, and I look at who I pick out, like who's of value and whose price is depressed that really no one wants anything to do about them, right? So Travis Etienne, last year, if you guys remember, I want to say he had like a second or third round ADP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he was coming off a very good year and he sucked. And this year, nobody wanted anything to do with him. They had the shiny new toy in Tootin, and they were talking about Bigsby, and Etienne was an afterthought. Javonte Williams coming off, a whatever year, below average year, didn't do anything special. He's sluggish. He's not, this big home run type of guy. And you look at the situation in Dallas, and it's like someone's got to be the starter. And this guy can catch passes, and he's a big dude. He could get the goal line work. So I then put that together and put a list of running backs, and I try to find who in that pocket of value is going in like 6th, 7th, 8th round. And I do this exercise every year, and I have I want to say 3 years running now where I've hit on the value running back to have. Chase Brown last year, and then this year was Etienne, Javonte. So that's one of my takeaways. And part of my process that I do, and I invite anyone to do that. That's just one of the things that I do strategically. And then the other takeaway, I don't know if do I keep rattling off or
Yeah,
give you
yeah,
guys.
go ahead. Whatever.
Floor is
whatever you
yours,
did.
my friend.
Okay,
Whatever
all
you
right.
want to
Yeah.
do.
The other one was that what I noticed was like quarterbacks. I waited on quarterback this year. I didn't have any of the elite quarterbacks really on any of my teams. It worked out kind of lucky because Lamar got hurt, Burrow got hurt, Jaden Daniels got hurt. So, a little bit of luck factor in there. But I would say that my highest owned quarterbacks were Dak and Drake May, and they played I feel like they played those guys even or played Josh Allen even enough that Allen wasn't a difference maker if you took him early in drafts. So that's going to be my one of my takeaways that I'm not taking that third, fourth round quarterback. So if they go later, Chris, different story. Like seventh round, where I have already a couple of running backs and a few receivers on the team, yeah, I'm going to consider those guys. My takeaway that I did poorly this year was I overanalyzed the quarterback situation for a few wide receivers, and I'll start off with JSN. I felt like they were going to be a run-heavy offense, which I actually got that right, okay? But I thought Darnold sucks as a quarterback. I think the jury's still out, but he's good enough that he supported JSN. So JSN was a fade of mine, and that was just a mistake. Like I have to reevaluate that whole situation because Olave was a guy that I should have owned a lot more based on his ADP. And again, I'm like Rattler, and then if they go to Shuck, I'm like, these guys might be the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't have really interest in Olave. So that's a poor job. And Garrett Wilson would have been fine if he didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
He was going to be good. I feel
He's still leading the Jets in receiving. He
Yeah.
hasn't played.
I feel like he would have been just
That is true.
fine as a third round pick. Even with the quarterback situation. So that's my biggest takeaway is I need to not overanalyze the QB situation when it comes to elite wide receivers that have the skill set.
Before I forget, and I want to piggyback off Nelson's point right there, because as I'm thinking about this answer to my question, my answer would actually be flipped to kind of what Nelson's saying, and that would be to not buy into average and below average wide receivers or pieces in offenses that are high-powered offenses. Okay, prime example, I bought in, and one of my worst picks of the year was Xavier Worthy, right? Xavier Worthy, third round, was one of my main targets. And it was just because I love this Chiefs offense. I thought they were going to be a top 3 offense. But is he an elite wide receiver? No. Okay, but he was just a piece in that offense that I wanted, a piece of. Now, I think you could kind of say the same thing about Jameson Williams in Detroit, even though he came on really strong second half. But at the same time, even though he came on a strong second half, he needed a lot of things to break right for that to open up, because he was terrible for the first 8-10 weeks of the season. Laporta had to go down. Then Amon-Ra got banged up. This one, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I think that would be my biggest lesson that I regret this year on my bad picks, would be trying to get pieces that I really don't believe in that much, that I don't think they're elite players, elite fantasy options, and maybe in my mind, in a right situation. But I think next year I got to make sure I do a better job of getting away from players like a Xavier Worthy or Jameson Williams.
Sticking on the wide receiver point, just because I think it's really relative. Like Neighbors, he got injured, and he could have just been wide receiver 1 or top 3.
He was going to be great, Matt.
So I was really in on Neighbors. I was really in on BTJ. And if he does get traded and is in the right situation and depressed, I'll go back to him. But we'll gotta wait and see on that. But I went that route over like the Amon-Ra and the Puka, and that's something. Just take the guys you know are great. And I do think BTJ can be really good because the guy knows how to score touchdowns. He scored 17 in college. If the first year he was hurt the first half, the second half he was a beast. And maybe they're not on the same page, him and the quarterback now, and I think he's on his way out of Jacksonville. So that's somebody to look at.
Yeah,
So-
I think if,
my thought on this is, first off, I think it's real easy to, you look back at the history, the past, and it looks inevitable, through the lens of what we know now. But, it doesn't look that way, when you're looking forward from the beginning of the season. Like Xavier Worthy, he was a guy that I was all in on too, Chris. And, I think had the season unfolded somewhat differently, we might have gotten a better outcome. I thought what we might get would be, him filling that Rashee Rice role for a while to start with, and then kind of transitioning over to be Jamison Williams. And, it ended up, he got hurt, so we didn't even get that early season bump that we were hoping for. And then all of a sudden, it's like, then he was not Jamison Williams. This offense was not working nearly as well as the Detroit offense was, that allowed them to get to, that allowed Detroit to get to Jamison Williams. So I completely misplayed the Chiefs offense, but kind of for a different reason. I just thought they were going to be better than they were. And I think the better the Chiefs offense had been, the better Worthy might have been.
I'll make 2 points on that. The Worthy one, I was in on Worthy. My lesson learned is this. Unfortunate, he got hurt, okay? So we don't quite know how that could have turned out, but it wasn't a good thing that he got hurt at the beginning of the year when Rice wasn't around.
But Nelson, he was just terrible for 17 weeks, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he
that's
did
my
get
big
destroyed.
Did he even have a good game?
He was a whiff, no doubt about it, Chris. But the thing is, now we know that, right? But looking at it from the lens of when the
But
season
wait, time
started,
out. If he didn't get hurt on that first play or first series, he might have had a 15-catch game. His season might have been totally different. He got blown up and was at it. I mean, that's hindsight. That's saying here and there.
I don't know if I can.
I will. I'm gonna.
But I'm
I'm gonna
just
side with
pointing
Chris
it out.
on this, though.
Yeah.
By week 10, your shoulder has to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Your
Yep.
legs are fine.
Yeah.
And you're still not getting it done.
Yeah.
Right.
So my lesson learned is stay away from the one-trick ponies, and that's what I think Worthy is. Unfortunately, and I was in on him. He had some unfortunate circumstances with injury, but I think as the season went on, he should have done something. And he was literally, like, for fantasy wise, he was an 8 to 10 point guy.
Yeah, he was terrible. And he was like a third-round pick. So he was.
And then
terrible.
with Jameson, not to necessarily victory lap this, but when we were talking ADP and we were looking at draft boards, during draft season, we talked about this, and I mentioned Detroit. I said something's got to give. You can't have Gibbs and Amon-Ra going in the first round. You can't have Laporta going as high as he is, and you can't have Jameson being pushed up as high as he's going. Something's going to happen. Like, someone's going to disappoint, and we're not going to be happy with it.
I got to push back on you guys with the JMO. He was terrible the first half of the year, but he had a run for almost 8 weeks where he was outscoring Amon-Ra. So, and he's got a 0 in there. I brought it up on the show like a week or two ago.
He helped a lot of teams to consolation championships.
I don't think you can victory lap that one, especially that he was he was a late 4th, 5th round pick, NFFC, FFPC. He was a 5th, early 6th. So I wouldn't take that as Worthy was a horrible pick. You can't defend that. We can try and say if he didn't get blown up the first play, what could have been, but he was horrible. I don't think the JMO you can take the victory lap on.
Yeah, and the thing is with JMO and Laporta, I was kind of right there with Nelson. I was like, these, if you've got Gibbs and you've got Amon-Ra up top, one of these guys, JMO or Laporta, is going to disappoint. And I thought it was going to be Laporta, so I kind of put my eggs in the JMO basket. not so much in the Laporta basket. I probably should have split it a little bit more than I did. As it turns out, probably neither one was a great idea. I mean, Jameson, as Matt points out, definitely, he came on, he had a nice stretch. If you were still in it, he definitely could help you out. But I think one of my, and to Matt's point, one of my big things that I needed to do more of next year, that I didn't do enough of this year, is prioritizing the Puka Nakuas, the Amon-Ra St. Browns, the guys like that can get it done over, like the Brian Thomases or players, that are a little bit more, you're forecasting a little bit too much for somebody that you're taking that high.
The other thing I wanted to add with that is at the end of the day, Amon-Ra finished as like wide receiver 3. So JMO, yeah, he had some weeks where he outscored Amon-Ra, but at the end of the day, like Amon-Ra paid off. I'm just saying that JMO as like a 4th round pick, like he was a guy that I felt like in some drafts he fell, but there was a lot of drafts where people were into him and they were pushing him up. And I remember seeing that and I'm like, man, I don't see it. Like
where did he finish on the year? Just out of curiosity, like what wide receiver is he?
Which one?
Jameson Williams. Because I'm looking from like early November
sure.
on. He's got monster games, and he's got a 0 in there. So I know last week he didn't do it. He killed me in a big spot, but I'm maybe thinking more from an FFPC perspective because I do play a lot more there. Maybe NFFC he got pushed up more into that early 4th. But he was, pretty much 5th, early 6th in FFPC.
Here's the thing about JMO. He finished wide receiver 13.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. But the thing is, you got, you're looking at basically for his first 7 weeks, he gave you 2 good games. A lot of people by that time were gun shy about starting him. And starting with week 9, coming out of the bye, the Minnesota game, that's where he went on a strong run. And I think a lot of people were sitting him in week 9. So, he had that great run, but it was a real tough start, and he got people.
I just don't think you can call him a bust or take a victory lap on him.
No, I don't think he was a bust.
Especially he was that. And if you look at what he's done over the last 2 months. Did he kill me in this championship? Christmas Day was so disappointing. But, without that, I don't get to where I was without him either.
It's just more of my takeaway on guys like that. So like Paul brings up a great point comparison. Matthew Golden, he's a one-trick pony, and he's another guy that you want to take the guys that are going to earn targets. And sometimes the safer, boring guy, like Davante Adams, yes, he was hurt here for the shootout, didn't help you, but like he helped you get you to the playoffs, okay, and win money. And like he's one of those like older, boring guys tied to a good quarterback, good offense. Probably a guy we should have been investing in.
I'll say this, Nelson. It was the perfect landing spot he's a Hall of Fame wide receiver, but he got the perfect landing spot as well. And we should have been more keen on that.
Yeah, the age kind of made me shy away from him, but I will say 100% of the teams I had Adams on made the playoffs. That right there is pretty telling. So
that was a huge miss by me. My biggest miss, I'll say this, was fading the Rams wide receivers. That was I had no Puka and I had no Davante Adams.
But why'd you do that, Chris? Because you were scared of Stafford, right?
I was scared of Stafford.
Everybody was, not
I
everybody,
was scared of Stafford.
That was the reason.
But looking back on draft season, if you asked what my biggest miss was, it would be fading round 1 or 2 Puka and round 3 or 4 Davante Adams.
Yeah, I will say that goes back to my theory that it's the wolf versus the sheep, the Wolf of Wall Street scenario where when the sheep are scared of a player and his price is depressed and he's tied to very good offense, good play caller like Puka, right? His price, like no one was. I'll give. I don't know who they were, but I'm sure there was a couple of people that were in on Puka. I'm not saying everybody, were not in on Puka, but his ADP showed that most people weren't seeing Puka having this kind of season, right?
Right.
I think we can agree on that. So that's the theory of, that's when the wolf comes in and takes advantage, and you can't be scared and you can't draft scared. And that's another lesson learned is instead of being scared of like Stafford's back and everything, we can't look through a lens of rose-colored glasses all the time when we're drafting. But that's a situation where
we're reading into certain situations, and to me, I didn't think that Stafford's back was going to hold up at all. And if I was correct in that assessment, then I was right to fade Puka. But Stafford's back held up. I mean, this guy missed all of camp, showed up a day before the season starts, basically, and never misses a beat the whole season. Never misses a game, a snap, nothing.
So last year,
high-powered MVP. Now, sometimes Nelson and the rest, sometimes you're just wrong on the way you see the season or a game playing out or whatever. To me, I was betting on a 39-year-old quarterback's back not holding up, him having a god-awful season and tanking his wide receivers with him. And it played out the complete opposite.
And I'll tell you this, though. If you think back to a year ago, it was a very similar situation with Jamar Chase, okay? If you remember in drafts, we were getting down to the final week. Chase had been holding out the whole time, and we started getting worried. So much so, he dropped in drafts, okay? And look what he ended up doing. He ended up being the wide receiver 1, okay? Just like Puka. So that's my point is that's 2 years in a row now that we've been a little skittish on the wide receivers, and they go on to be the wide receiver 1. I'm not saying, hey, let's find the next guy that we're scared of next year and draft the heck out of
So
him.
Nelson, what you're basically saying is scared money don't make money.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Matt. So,
But this is also why I had a lot of McLaurin this year, because I was like, I'm not going to be scared of him. I don't care about the holdout. He's in camp. Let's go.
well, Dan,
Probably should have factored in a little more on age.
Yeah,
I know. I wasn't expecting McLaurin to be Jamar Chase, okay? I wasn't expecting that, but a 4th round, 5th round, he looked like a good value.
That's a good question right there, though. That's a
What
good
was
question.
everyone's best pick this year at any position that you guys were all in on? Nelson, you're gonna say ETN, correct?
Yeah, you guys know, my guy. It was ETN, Javonte, Drake May. Every draft, I just kept taking them, and I wasn't. What helped too was where I was taking them in the draft. Okay, so to me, I'm like, I've burnt plenty of 8th round picks and 9th round picks and whatever. If I'm wrong on this guy, I'll off to the waiver wire and and get to work and replace him. But that's not going to necessarily break my season. But it could really help if I'm right. If I go all in. What I found impressive, okay, and very ballsy was you, Chris, being all in on Jonathan Taylor in the 2nd round. Because for me, with I had over 100 teams this year. And I try to diversify in the first 3 rounds. I try not to be all in on a player, because if an injury happens, I'm like, shit, I'm up shit's creek. So I found that to be the most impressive was the amount of teams you had with Jonathan Taylor. Whereas for me, I think it's a little bit easier. If ETN doesn't work out and Tootin takes over that job, and Drake May is just, quarterback 15 or whatever, I can move on. That's not going to ruin my season. But Taylor, that's ballsy.
Thank you. And I've said this before on the show, every year is different. And, to me this year, not loving the 2nd round so much, but one guy stood out to me more than others. I loved Jonathan Taylor. I thought he should be a 1st round pick. I love the offense. I I built a lot of my teams and my strategies this year around the Dallas offense and the Colts offense. There was a lot of Dak Prescott and Daniel Jones, along with Trevor Lawrence. Those were my three most owned quarterbacks. Sometimes you just sit back and you look at certain offenses and their ADPs across the board, and you say, all right, I think this offense is going to outkick their coverage basically, and they're getting suppressed. And Dak Prescott being an 8th, 9th rounder in NFC, I think it all stood out to us. You guys loved him as well. Duke Viveros, our guy Duke, everybody was laughing at how much he couldn't get out of a draft in June and July without taking Dak. We were all seeing it the same way, a lot of us top players. And that came along with George Pickens. I couldn't understand George Pickens' ADP. So I think that was the success of my season, was so much Jonathan Taylor and George Pickens with the Dak Prescotts and being in on the right offenses. Because being in on a wrong offense and having a lot of pieces across the board can tank your seasons.
The Raiders.
I've been there before.
Chiefs.
So, the Jonathan Taylor thing worked out well. The George Pickens thing worked out well. And as we saw going through these championship teams that we just covered in the episode, you don't need to hit on 18 out of 20 rounds in your draft. If you hit on the right guys, 4, 5, 6 guys in your draft, and they're home run picks, such as a 2nd round Taylor, a 5th round, 4th round Pickens, something like that. 9th round Dak or 12th round Drake May. This carries you a long, long way. It saves a lot of your weeks, and it keeps you consistent week after week.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd have to say it was May at the quarterback position. He was my most owned. Scatterboo was probably the most devastating injury for me for that RB2 spot, because he was a guy that looked like at least he was a bridge for me, and it could have been something really special, like, the Hendersons or the Harveys that weren't hitting early, and you got Scatterboo to come in there. I mean, that was devastating to lose that. I'm with you on Pickens. I was saying in the NFFC, I don't know why he wasn't going early 4th round. I did all those shows with Nelson in the summer. I never understood that. But a key thing is like the little pickups that don't seem like really anything. Troy Franklin had his spots here or there, but like the Alec Pierce, that was one guy I was able to hit on, and he really emerged. And he's a guy that I want to see where he's at. What team is he on next year? Who's his quarterback? Who's his offensive play caller? Because that's a guy I'm really excited for.
Yep. And you get, guys like Michael Wilson, because a lot of times it does come down to some of those guys who just can play a role during the season for you. I had a lot of J.K. Dobbins who got me through some of my RB0.
Dobbins real good early, Dan.
Yeah. So guys like that, Scatterboo, he came through early, and then I had a bunch of Tyrone Tracy just hanging around on the back end of my rosters, that really came through towards the end when, I'm like losing players left and right, and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, Tracy, you're going in, and he did pretty good for the most part.
Dan, you said J.K. Dobbins. We got to throw in Jaylen Warren like that. They covered up a lot of holes early on. If you missed early on in drafts, that 8th, 9th, and that was a strategy that worked really good for me, was hitting on those mid-round RB2s in rounds 7 through 10 with the Jaylen Warren, J.K. Dobbins. Also, while we're on this topic, I can't forget when we talk about things that really worked for us was I nailed the tight end position on all my drafts this year with Tyler Warren and Tucker Kraft being the top 2, and Kyle Pitts. We got to mention him too. Those 3 were my 3 most owned tight ends. When you can wait on a position and nail it, it really comes together. Sometimes we have draft seasons where we're 50-50. This was my best drafted season by far in a long time. Okay. And it led to a really solid season for myself. But those guys at the tight end position, Tyler Warren got good. mostly all year long. He faded down the stretch once you lost Daniel Jones. Tucker Kraft was tight end 1 for the first 8 weeks before he went down, and then Kyle Pitts took us the rest of the way.
But Chris, that was the gift in the NFFC. Is these tight ends were there like round 10, round 11.
Yeah.
There were really good options, or at least upside potential to be had. At least that was one of the things.
Also mixed in, Matt, with the fact that you had a choice at the tight end position this year, whether you were going to pay up and go elite tight end because the options were so strong with Bowers, Kittle, McBride up top. Missing one other. Who was the other fourth guy?
Those were the top 3 for
there
sure.
Was 3. It wasn't 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not really. I mean, Laporta. Sometimes people.
Yeah,
will put
Laporta
up
was like
there.
a 7th rounder.
Yeah, Tyler Warren. Sometimes people put up there, but for the most part, it was
a
those
fourth
3.
big one. No. All right. So those 3 people were falling all over themselves in draft season to get that advantage at tight end. Well, other than McBride, the other 2 was not an advantage. You know, Bowers, as great as he is, was a bust pick. You know, he hurt you all year long.
Kittle as well. I mean, he was out for so long. Bowers and Kittle both.
The same as when
And
Kittle
when you
played.
replace that, and then when you don't make that pick in the 2nd and 3rd rounds with Bowers, McBride, and Kittle, and you're the guy that drafts 9th, 10th, 11th round Tyler Warren or Tucker Kraft, and those teams aren't getting those 20 points a week, and you are in the 10th and 11th round. I mean, that's the difference between being top 2 in your league or bottom 2 in your league right there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of comes down to injury on those cases. Like Bowers, I think would have been not as good as McBride. Bowers would have probably been the most disappointing pick. Kittle, I mean, it was basically the injury that killed him and killed player or gamers who picked him up. Like I had a bunch of Kittle teams, and it was just like, by the time he he had that great first week, and then by the time he finally got back, I'm like sitting in the middle of the pack trying to scratch my way back up to the top, and it's just too tough sometimes.
Yeah, he was a beast when he played. I mean,
Yep.
The one takeaway I will say for FFPC for me is I will add that extra running back earlier on. I'm not going to wait as long for that RB2. That's what I've learned. I haven't been playing FFPC for that many years, but I've gotten in it the last couple of years and pretty heavy. Like I played to the spectrum between that and NFFC this year. And that's one of the things I will have that RB2 a hell of a lot sooner and, more of that RB running because it does allow you those wide receivers are there. The Waddles, the Olave types, you're going to have options there. So that's one of my takeaways.
I think I want to just say this as we're getting close to the end. I think as we've gotten to this point in the fantasy industry with the NFFC, FFWC, PC, whatever, the margins in these leagues are so small. There's so much good competition out there now. Nelson, you could talk about this as well. Like 10, 12 years ago, like when, you would sit down at a draft table, you knew you had to beat 1 or 2 guys, and you knew there was 7 or 8 guys at the table that, even though they might be okay, like it was clear. Now you get in these leagues and there's 10 animals at the table and you're lucky if you get 1 or 2 dead spots. And the margin is so small to win a league or finish in 9th because, and what does it take? You come out of drafts. I look at drafts, the draft boards, I study them all the time. And, you finish a draft and you look across and you're like, that team's good. That team's good. That team's good. That team, like, it's not like it was 8-10 years ago. And you're like, oh my God, what is this guy doing? What is this guy doing? All right, this league comes down to me, this guy, and this guy, and then it usually played out that way. So many good players now. And then what it comes down to as the season goes on is who gets their 2nd round, 1st round pick hurt and goes down. And they their bench is a little shorter. Most teams have good benches now. It's really just a margin. And that's why, look, if you do 20 leagues, it's not like you drafted bad in 10 of them and drafted good in 10 of them. Like, I think we're all confident that we're going to sit down and have a really good draft. It's just the competition out there right now is so good across the board, and everyone knows how to draft for the most part. It's when you get in season, who gets that sneaky fab ad, who avoids injuries, whose team stays healthy, and who makes, instead of, hitting on 5 really good picks, maybe they hit on 7 really good picks throughout their draft, and it takes you over the top. But we see that, like when Greg and Tom send out that thing at the end of, and I wanted to talk about this a couple weeks ago, like there was like 90 primetime leagues. And after like 12 weeks with 2 weeks to go, there was only like 5 leagues decided at that point. There was nobody running away. There was teams that it was as close as ever, every league. I'm sure you guys saw the same thing. All my primetime leagues were like, a guy that's in 6th could finish in 3rd or 2nd in the last 2 weeks. It's just so close, and the margins for error are so small, and that's why it really comes down to lineup decisions.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Throughout the weeks is who leaves the most points on the bench. We all do it. It's just tough. Who makes the right lineup decisions throughout the year is who's going to win the league and move on.
That's the least talked about, in my opinion. We all talk about getting these fab, gems, which you definitely need, or hitting on the late round guys. But like you said, if we waited on quarterback and you had Drake May and Brock Purdy this week, or, change that, like Drake May and somebody else. But, making those calls, you leave, 45 versus 19. Those are game changers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even just a few, 17 versus 4 points, and it's really hard to see coming. I mean, this is why Nelson is so busy every Thursday night, Sunday morning, answering all these lineup questions from everybody, because it's you have these things, and I look at a lot of the lineup questions that Nelson asks or gets asked, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh man, I am glad I'm not Nelson right now, because some of them are incredibly easy, but there's a lot of them where I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, there's no real clear right answer here. Tough times. So shout out to Nelson for being able to do that for all these people.
Yeah,
good job by you.
Thank you. I think having a process and sticking with it, and not being so focused on the results. Like the results is how we measure ourselves, but like you got to have a process. You can't be all over the place, and not everything needs to be like gut feel, right? You got to have some type of structure, and I think with Fab also, because you can have teams where you didn't draft the greatest or you've suffered injuries, and I feel like that's one thing where I think Chad does a very good job over the majority of fantasy players. Is he grinds Fab, and he has a knack for finding those players that can help out for that like 1 week or 2 weeks. And like this year for me, it was like Parker Washington was that guy. Tez Johnson at the beginning of the year was that guy. Like he became a nobody, but like for a little stretch run, he was getting you like 15 points, and that's the difference, sometimes. So I think you can grind your way into a successful, profitable season, and not be perfect in your draft. And one of the things, like I'm going to bring up Chad because I was very well in tune with him this year and helping him with his teams at FFPC. Like all his main events that cashed up top, which he had several that cashed up there, none of them had CMC on them. And it wasn't necessarily like he was fading CMC, because he wasn't, but it was, he follows a process. If you guys know him, you know that he updates ADP, and he pretty much follows ADP because he's doing hundreds of drafts. And CMC just never felt like someone was always taking CMC ahead of where he had him, like for ADP. So he was taking like Brock Bowers, ahead of CMC. He was taking Saquon Barkley ahead of CMC. And he ended up a little bit shy on him, but he still had a successful season despite not having a guy that was a game breaker.
Yeah.
Yep. Good point. All right, let's. We're almost at 2 hours here, so real quick.
Hey Dan, I got sun in the background over here. I got a pool I got to get out to over here. I got
Exactly. That's what I'm
my
talking about.
Speedo on and everything. I'm ready to roll out here.
Stay seated.
Don't worry.
We got to get Chris out there and get him tan. So real quick, let's just do each of us give one player you think is going to be a difference maker at ADP in 2026. Don't need a lot of discussion. Just throw out a name, and we can move on.
Oh, I got one. Yeah. I got
No, Dan, you called this out. You tell me.
All right. I'll throw out there. I think probably Colston Loveland hasn't done enough this year to get boosted up as high as he probably needs to go in draft boards next year. I think he's going to be a Tucker Kraft type without the price tag, because we know Tucker Kraft is going to be expensive.
Okay, I like that one.
I was actually going to say another Bear, and that was going to be Luther Burden.
Yeah.
That was going to be my.
He's going to be.
Steamed up, though.
He's definitely going to steamed up.
Oh yeah.
You can just have that feeling already. There is talk about that. Go ahead.
I'll say Kenneth Walker. He's a free agent. If he lands and he gets a role, everybody, well, not everyone, a lot of people loved him this year, but there was the concern with the foot. He wasn't practicing. You had Charbonnet, and then they split it like that this year. If he gets a chance to be the lead back and he's a little depressed, I'm going to take that shot. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm going to fire that bullet pretty much every time.
Okay, I like that one too.
Yep. That's a good one.
Who's your pick, Nelson?
Lad McConkey.
Nice.
So
Take
I'm
the
gonna.
discount.
He's going to be discounted, and I'm gonna be all over him next year.
I like it. I like it a lot. White Boy Summer, starring Lad McConkey, 2026.
Give me real quick, guys. I know I do this to you every week. Give me the top 3 offenses next year that people are going to be falling all over themselves to be invested in real quick.
I'm going to say Jacksonville, because what Liam did this year, they got their core right there. I mean, signing, what's his name from the Raiders, Jacoby, Parker Washington's ascension. You got Strange at the tight end. I do think Thomas gets moved. And if they don't sign ETN and he leaves, I do think Tootin is a really good back, and we'll show that.
He got his Tootin in.
There you go.
Yeah.
Chris, ready? I'm gonna. I know the question, but I'm gonna give you an overdrafted player next year. Travis Etienne.
There you go. Yeah. Could
So
be.
I'm gonna go from all in on him to fade next year.
I like that vote thing. But that is what I'm going to do, Nelson.
Are you thinking that he moves on or that he stays in Jacksonville?
Either way.
Either way.
I think he moves on. I don't think they're going to commit a lot.
I think if he moves on, there's a chance that he'll be all right. But again, it kind of depends on where his ADP settles in. If he's a third round pick again, that might be a little tough.
I think he's at least a 3rd round pick next year.
Okay. All right, Chris, who do you think are the offenses everybody's getting in on?
Top 3 for me that people are going to be all in on: the Bears, the Jags.
Yep.
And I think everyone's going to come all in again on the Bengals. I don't think that's a surprise.
I'm going to throw the 49ers in there.
49ers belong up there, Dan. Good answer. And I'll tell you a real low-key one. I don't know if they belong in this answer here, but if Neighbors is in camp in July and August and looks really good, the Giants offense is going
Scatterboo and Dart.
Scatterboo, Dart, Neighbors, Wandell.
Is Wandell a free agent?
Well, that's a good question.
He is, yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, I believe
he's
so.
a free agent.
He's a goner, man.
He's made himself a nice payday.
Guys, I just got a text from my wife. She must be listening to the show.
She said, "Pack the car. We're going to Maine." And
She goes, "Dear God, you're so out of it. We're going to Vermont."
If that doesn't sum us up there, Nelson.
Vermont, Maine,
It's the same thing. It's up north.
Yeah, it's all pretty much the same. Whether you got Seacoast or not, that's all that matters.
That's so good. That is so good.
All right.
That's the perfect ending.
Anybody
Yes, sir.
else? We ready to get out of here? It is. We're
It's
almost
time.
at 2 hours.
Yeah,
That's
it's
that's
time.
the way to wrap up the show right there.
All right, sounds
Nelson
good.
doesn't even know where he's going.
All right. Well, Nelson, I'll be thinking of you while you're up there freezing your ass off in Vermont while I'm down in St. Martin and enjoying the sunshine. for
Same,
sure.
Dan. Same.
It's actually freezing here in Tennessee. It's like 20 something
yeah.
degrees.
But anyway, thanks for joining us this week. We really appreciate you guys who've been listening to us, especially the ones who've been with us all year. We really get a charge out. We love your comments on the YouTube. We appreciate all the feedback that you give us. Be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, all the good stuff, whatever's appropriate to the format on which you're consuming the show. And tune in next week. We're going to be covering strategies for the NFFC and FFPC playoff challenges. And Happy New Year, everybody. We'll catch you all next week.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.